noticed instantly about the estate and the property?
Well, thank you, Angela, and good afternoon, everybody. The story started back in 2006 when the family of Alejandro and Bettina Bulgheroni invited me to visit their beautiful property near Punta del Este and to understand if there was a good potential for growing premium grapes and making premium wines. And when I got there, I was, very, very impressed by the beauty and complexity of the environment, which normally I associate always to very good wines. Good wines are always born in places where, there is a lot of going on. There is a very complex mother nature. As always, I asked for digging some pits and have a look at the underground and have some information about the climate, rainfall and the wind and the sunlight and everything. And I was, very, very well impressed because the soil, which is, the main responsible of premium wines, was a fantastic decomposed granite mother rock, which in other parts of the world is also responsible for making premium wines. The vicinity to the Atlantic Ocean was very inspiring because, we get a beautiful, healthy, cool, refreshing breeze every day through the property. And, as I was saying before, was not a simple place. There was a lot of, different plants and herbs and animals and small lakes and palm trees. And, it was really a very exciting and inspiring environment. And on the other hand, I was very impressed by that and a little concerned about not having any reference in the area because there were no vineyards around it. That region was very, very new to the vineyard. So, but I was thinking, this is going to be probably an experiment. And so we will be starting with a few hectares. So it's going to be exciting anyway. And so after, all these thoughts and considerations, obviously the family asked me what my impression was. And I say, I think it's, it's a very inspiring place. I like the soil. I like the climate. It's probably remind me more Europe than the New World because, the New World in general, you see vineyards develop in a very dry, sunny, in a way, easy place to grow grapes. And there was more like we experience in Europe, like Bordeaux, like, even in Italy, so more humidity, more filtered light, in a way, a bit more trouble to grow the grapes, but also a lot of complexity, elegance, and that was also very inspiring. So, saying all that, I think the family, was excited about hearing these comments, and then we started with the project. As again, I was hoping that was just an experiment. When I say, my impression was very good, and from my side, thumb up. The Mr. Bulgheroni said, okay, why don't we start with 200 hectares? I say, wait a second, probably it's not as good. No, that's too late. You said it's very good and inspiring, so we can't go back. And that's how we started. Was very, was very, in a way, naive. I mean, not many plans, and not just based on the feelings that we both had. And that's the very beginning of the project.
It's fascinating because even for me, when we just started to work with Bodega Garzón, I wasn't familiar with Uruguay. So it's been an education. I think that's been a lot of it through the States with our team, with distributors and accounts. We're educating a lot about Uruguay and explaining this part of Uruguay and then what's going on with Garzón and why it's so special. So with this experiment, this viticultural experiment, you've come to create Balasto, which is a blend. Can you tell us a little bit about those varieties and what the philosophy is for the Balasto wine?
Yeah, it's when it came to the planting of the vineyards, obviously we decided to first of all, to keep the environment as it was without changing the beauty of the place, and also without moving land and making vineyards. So we develop a lot of very small vineyard in order to keep the integrity of the environment itself. So we planted out the 200 hectares, which is approximately 500 acres, were planted into over 1,000 small vineyards, which was amazing. So the size of a vineyard is like 1 acre or so. And that's was a great opportunity because we could really have so many ingredients from different exposure and micro terroir and everything, which gave us the opportunity of experimenting different grapes in different exposure and soil types as well. And Balasto, I think it's came as a result of these first 6-7 years of investigation about all the different opportunity of different grapes in different micro terroir. And by making wines for the initial 5 to 6 years, we understood that there were some areas, some grapes that were really doing much better than others. And in a way, Balasto, the idea behind that was to show with this wine the potential of this place and how some different grapes blended together could complement each other and to create, a very nice, interesting, complex and multi-layer wine.
Well, that it is for sure. So was the 2015 that was the first vintage?
Yeah, it was 2015, and I think it's again we started making wine in a very small amount in 2010. So the first 5 years they were basically experiencing and understanding, and 15 was the first result of this our initial experience with the place and with the grapes, and I think it's we obviously when it came to put up a blend, the Tannat, which was and still is the most important Uruguayan red grape, obviously was obviously the main actor of the movie. But along with that, we also had experienced amazing results with Cabernet Franc, which is really showing beautiful elegance, a lot of very refreshing balsamic flavors. And so even Cab Franc became an important component on the blend. And then there was a bit of Marcelin, which is a nice discovery in Uruguay because it's doing very well there, which is a cross between Cabernet Sauvignon and Grenache, and which is also adding some spices and some juiciness to the blend. Then there was a bit of Petit Verdot, which was doing also very well, adding to the blend some mid palate, some texture and some structure. And in some years, some Merlot, because we planted some Merlot in the more clay, south-facing slopes, where the Merlot is doing the best. And in some years, we use also a little bit of it. So this was the idea. And when it came to the winemaking, we were thinking of trying hard to deliver the essence and the purity of the soul of the place. So we try not to be very invasive with the winemaking, and with the intention to use our experience, our know-how to do everything at the best, but trying hard not to mask the essence of the place, and just to deliver a wine which wants to be very pure, very authentic, and therefore avoiding the use of something that could interfere with that expression, like over maturation of the grapes. We avoided that, over extraction. Also, the use of small barrels was not initially. We used some of that, but then we realized that the large untoasted barrels were those who were giving the wine the best environment for the wine itself to develop and to show all its elegance and complexity. So that's what we did. And we are at the very beginning of the story of this wine, because as you know, premium wines, if you look at the history of premium wines, the first year have been more learning and understanding and experiencing, and every year you put a little bit on top of it, and more and more and more, and then with the hope to do better and better. Obviously, these are also wines that are really showing very well the vintage they were made, and that's because that's the way it is. I mean, just when you do a vertical testing, it's very interesting to experience the the difference that the mother nature is giving us every year.
There are a couple of things you always speak about when you talk about the soil and the wines at Garzón. You talk about energy, or I think voltage was maybe the latest word I heard. So at what point, maybe when at the very first vintage of Balasto, or maybe earlier on, could you describe what you mean by energy and voltage, and how you're seeing that translating through some of the wines?
Oh, I think it's
the tasting, everyone. So I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole, but
I think it's most of the wines coming from the New World that base this quality on concentration. Concentration is it is part of the wine, but it's with this wine, we are not looking for that. We're not looking for concentration. We are more looking for texture, and texture is a structure which is very alive and very vibrant and very reactive in your palate. And that's what Balasto is about. And it's not us doing that, but I think it's pretty much the essence of the decomposed granite rock, which is giving these characteristics. Obviously, you had to do everything to show them, and again, not to overdo and make mistakes in the making of the wine that can cover that. But I think it's coming on its own, and energy and vitality are descriptors that I like very much, because it give me wine is about life, is about vitality, and then when you drink a wine, to have these beautiful reactive tannins going back and forth in your mouth, and these flavors and this texture, it's really very, very pleasurable, and that's pretty much what Balasto is about. Is not concentration, but more texture. That's and which again is that reminds me more, if you want. Well, it's changing, the word, it's difficult now to say new world in the old world, because they're getting closer and closer. And geologically speaking, I mean, I think geology doesn't know which is the new world and which is the old world, because it's more about the concept that in Europe has been always developed, focusing on the origin, and initially in the new world there's more being focused on the market, but it's changing a lot now. So it's you start finding a lot of textural, elegant, and complex wines in the new world as well. More and more,
like the worlds collide. Geology doesn't know where you're in your world. Well, let's get into some wines. Why don't we taste some of the wines? So most of the guests on this Zoom call should have received samples. If not, it's probably my bad. If not, we'll organize that after, but you should definitely have some wines, and feel free to taste along.
Yeah.
And listen and taste later, and so forth. So why don't we go ahead and start with how about the 2018? Should we go that way?
Yeah. Now, to make comments about the wines, it's not easy in front of all these experts. So I think it's and probably I'm not very good at that. It's I'm always very focused on making the wine, and but obviously, as I was telling you, it's I can tell you what my feelings are, but the 18 has been a fantastic vintage. Atlantic Ocean climate, to me, is very nice, because it's got humidity, you get filtered light, and also the breeze from the ocean is very, very important to cool down the grapes overnight, and also to help to dry out after the rain. But still, what makes the difference in the Atlantic Ocean climates, with the region near that, is the summer. So summer can be very rainy, or can be enough raining, or can be dry, not very often. So it depending on how the summer goes, you really have an impact into the fruit and then into the wine. So in general, we are very lucky, because our soil are very, very well drained, because the decomposed mother rock is like very, very small, fine stones And when you get the rain, the soil dries out very quickly, and that helps a lot the fruit, the maturation of the fruit. But still, I mean, if you have a season where in summer you get enough water for the grapes to grow and ripen, but not too much, that makes the difference. And 18 was just like a textbook growing season, so it was just perfect. And that's showing, I mean, it's the way the different grapes complement each other. You smell, you know, the black fruit from the tannin, but this is not an heavy, jammy or overripe. You know, black fruit is more an acidic, vibrant black fruit, which I like a lot. And there are, you know, the spices of the Cape Franc and the very refreshing balsamic, slightly vegetal notes from the Cape Franc that I like very much. And in the mouth, obviously, you get the richness of tannin. You really enjoy the vibrancy of the Cape Franc, and you know, the beautiful meat palate that, you know, a touch of Merlot can give to the wine, and the juiciness of the Marcelin, which is also very nice.
So just to confirm this blend,
it's 40% tannin, and then it's 34 Cape Franc. Then there is 18 Petit Verdot, 5 Merlot, and 3 Marcelin.
Okay, I think I listened to one of these presentations in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, but I scribbled and I tried to make notes. That was pretty good. So that's fantastic. I think that Merlot is really interesting in the vintage. I've heard that the 2018, all of you, you know, you Christian speaking about that vintage quite a lot. So I'm very excited about this, and this will be not quite released yet in the US. This is a pre-release, guys. So this is sort of a little sneak peek for you. It's coming soon. That's fantastic. So what I'm going to have is, if anyone has any questions or comments, Brandy's sort of helping me monitor this. You can just pop them into the chat, and we'll be able to kind of come back and circle back toward the end. So I didn't kind of talk through the run of show before, but why don't we jump into the 2017 as a comparison? Can you tell us, why don't we go in the order? Why don't you tell us a little bit about the vintage, then the blend and so forth, and we'll go from there.
Christian, you want to say something about the 17?
Yes, by all means. I prefer the 18. 18, as Alberto just mentioned, was textbook, and it was the first time Balasto has five great components. 2017 was a little bit more of a roller coaster, where we had a drought, we had a lot of rain, we had a heat wave, and then we had very cold wind. So it was very, very much a guessing game, and that's where it comes in, the expertise of the local guys, Eduardo Felix in the vineyards and Germán Brusone in the winery. They were able to bring in different grapes from the top parcels that put together the blend of the Balasto 2017. The difference here is it doesn't have Merlot. It's not a textbook harvest, as I mentioned, but it is dominant in Tannat. It's 50% Tannat. Then mostly Cab Franc and San Marcelin, and actually the only one that doesn't have Petit Verdot. I just believe this is a wine that it's very, very truthful to its philosophy, where we express the best of each vintage. The secret weapon of Garzón is not necessarily the ocean breezes from the Atlantic or the climate or the biodiversity. It's actually the soil, and that's what we call Balasto, is the meteorized granite, and it gives this ethereal feeling, this minerality to the wines, that every time we put together the blend, Mr. Bulgheroni, it's part of the team with Germán, Dr. Antonini, Eduardo Felix, and myself. And Don Alejandro gives us the north. He wants finesse, he wants balance, he wants elegance. So these wines are more like a ballerina with very beautiful expression, but with muscle and tension. I don't know, Alberto, you can give us your recollection. I remember a fantastic tasting we did together in Bordeaux, the first vertical of Balasto, which is the only wine out of Uruguay traded in the Place de Bordeaux. We presented together a Chilean talking about Uruguay with an Italian in Bordeaux to negociants and media from France. I think we presented in English, so it was all a big mistake, but the wines did their work, and I believe that 2016 was really the winner in that tasting that took place in September 2019. And the lady, the master of wine, really good friends of Josh here, she tasted the wines in Vinexpo, and she came to the tasting and she actually ordered Balasto, and it turned out that she runs Le Pan. So we were invited to this dance called the Place de Bordeaux, and we keep the wine, we keep Balasto on the open market. Obviously, Pacific Highway is our partner for Bodega Garzón and gets the lion's share of the allocation. But it is fascinating in this very young new vineyard, in this new 21st century terroir, which, as Angela says, is pretty much an experiment, to be already being able to put together this kind of wines. Sorry, I talk too much always, Angela. Back to you.
You both talk a lot and I talk a lot. So the whole thing becomes we all end up talking a lot. So we'll carry on trying to follow along. No, that's perfect. And we have a couple questions as we go, because I wanted to make sure we've tasted both the 2018 and the 2017 and given the audience a chance to sort of taste that. And I think this is such a young wine, a young experiment, considering the 2015 was only the first vintage. So it sort of feels like we're all on this journey of learning about these wines together with you. One question that came in is actually from Wilfred Wong. I think it's a good one, and we probably missed something pretty basic to start with. Is any of the flavors, could you describe any of the flavors that are distinct to Garzón, distinct to this terroir? So maybe the flavors in Tannat or some, or maybe in Cabernet Franc. Alberto.
I think it's, again, because of the microclimate and the soil, I like very much the freshness, and I like very much the drinkability of these wines. So the wines, they're not light because they're intense. They've got flavors and texture, but they're very drinkable. They're very juicy. They're very fresh. They're very vibrant. And that's what I really enjoy of the Garzón wines. And I think with the Tannat, we have been able to achieve also a very good maturation of the tannins without losing the freshness, because and I think it's that thanks to the environment, because some of the Tannat grown in other parts of the country, they are more on very clay heavy soils, and being in a place with a lot of rain, if the drainage is not good, the vines keep growing and vegetating with not stop, and that makes more difficult the maturation of the tannins. So tannins, they are really ripening very well. And I think what people have appreciated, and made of Garzón a great messenger of Tannat worldwide, is that it's combining texture, structure, but also a beautiful juiciness, which, was not easy to find in the old style Tannat. They were very astringent, they were very tough, and obviously not easy to enjoy unless you were waiting like decades.
And that's what I think has been a really interesting part of education here in this market. Well, it's what I'm familiar with, probably the rest of the world too, about what people can expect from Tannat, what people would anticipate from this variety. And I think it's, in certain ways, this is quite different. A great question from Josh Green, just in regards to the 2018. He's asking, he's noting the structural integrity and integration that he hasn't seen in some of the earlier vintages before. And he's asking if there's anything different you did in 2018, or is there something different?
No, I think also, we are experiencing a quality improvement, which is because of the age of the vines, you know what I mean? So it's these are grapes that require some years, and in general, before 6, 7 years, even 8 years, it's difficult to get a good balance in these type of grapes. And I think it's as we move forward, you look at the vines and they're getting more and more balanced, and you taste the fruit and it's also more balanced and more elegant in a way. So I agree that the integrity and the freshness is showing more and more, and that I think it's mainly because of the age of the vines. We are not changing much in the winemaking. Obviously, it's a key point is understanding the harvest date, which changes from year to year. But I would say that the main reason is, again, the balance that the vines are achieving over time, which makes the difference.
And there was a question on the untoasted oak, which I'm assuming, I'll let you of course answer, but having to do more with the allowing the freshness of the fruit and so forth to shine through. Maybe, yeah.
I think it's, regarding the oak, I'm not saying that oak flavor are bad at all, because, there are fantastic barrels with, from the best forest and, with the best seasoning and toasting and everything. But I believe that when you are in a special place, the magic combination of soil, plants, and climate is more than enough to generate plenty of flavors. So the idea here was just to play with that, and that was enough. And obviously, we found the large barrels. These are barrels that goes from the 2,500 to 5,000 liters each. And because of the thickness of the stave and the size, obviously the macro oxygenation is much smoother and slower. And that's what keeps in the wine more integrity and more energy as well. Because in the small barrels, obviously you get more richness because the oxygenation helps also to get a bit more, to build a bit more body, but you lose the kind of energy. So the wines are getting a little bit richer, fatter, a little sweeter. Here, just we really play with the beautiful energy coming from the granite. And we found that the cement that we use for fermenting, and also sometimes to go through the malolactic and to store the wine for a while, and the large barrels have been our best friends in the winemaking, really. And we are not using any commercial yeast or any enological products, because the fruit is so well balanced and doesn't really need any adjustment. And concrete has also been very, very interesting in Garzón, because it's a perfect environment for the fruit to ferment, for the yeast to do their job. It's a very alive environment with a little bit of porosity, and much more comfortable than stainless steel, for sure. I don't think any human being would like to live in stainless steel. So that's we let the wine live into concrete first, and then oak later on, which is more comfortable for him.
Mm-hmm. Or her, right?
For her.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't I pass it over to you, Christian, for a moment. Let's talk a little bit about the recent vintages. I mean, we've heard. We've kind of heard the past coming forward. We've obviously vine age. So what can we expect, not just Balasto, but in general from Garzón for, say, 2019 and 2020?
Well, every vintage is different here because of that Atlantic Ocean influence. It's very volatile, a little bit like Bordeaux. We actually get even more rain on average than Bordeaux. And having said that, it's part of the typicity of the wines here is the high natural acidity, and that reflects all the way up to Balasto, which is something that you don't normally find in Chile or Argentina or even California. 2019 was a bit rainy at the end of the spring, and then we got some rain towards the end of March. And what happened was that in general, the wines are fantastic, except that the top Tanat, we came to the conclusion that it didn't really meet the standard for Balasto. So 2019, I'm the carrier of the bad news. We decided to be true to our philosophy and abstain of making an even smaller blend or not Tanat dominated blend, and we decided to pass. Having said that, we were talking a lot about 2018 being the vintage of the century in Uruguay until 2020 came along. Difficult year, I know, no one wants to even listen about 2020, but for us it was absolutely fantastic harvest, as textbook as Alberto was mentioning on 2018, but cooler. So the ripening was even slower, and we were able, to scramble less and to plan properly when to pick. What Alberto was mentioning, every vintage we notice an improvement in the same parcel, and differences as the roots get closer to the mother rock. And in 2020, we believe that it's absolutely spectacular and the best vintage so far. As Don Alejandro was saying, the best is always yet to come here, but the 2020 overall was spectacular. Just yesterday evening, we did a tasting with Germán, presenting to the team the components of Balasto 2020, and even ourselves are very passionate. We live here. We're super impressed with the quality of 2020. So we really look forward to that blending session that will take place hopefully in November. This year we had the worst drought in the history of Uruguay in the spring, which led us to have spectacular health in the vineyard. Very, very controlled canopy. We work the vineyards, turning around the soil to avoid the weeds, but it's just spectacular. But of course, it's too early to say. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have an incredible 2021 harvest as well.
Yeah, you're getting on that, I would think.
There were a couple of questions. How long are we using the cask? That was one question. Well, we use them for many, many years, because we are not asking to the cask to give the wine flavor and aromas. So it's just a very nice environment for the wine to develop. And we, with the cask, we basically give to the wine just some soft and smooth micro-ox. So we can use them for decades. And the other question from Joshua was about New World Dry and Sunny, but I couldn't read very well the whole.
He's asking if you've tried any wines from the New York Finger Lakes, and made the note that the Cabernet Franc from the Finger Lakes is some of the closest that he could see in relation.
Sure. No, of course. I mean, there are several places now that are not sunny and dry, but if you look around and you see what Argentina, Chile, California, South Africa, Australia are, in most of the circumstances, you experience quite a dry, sunny environment, which I think has been also because, in a way, growing grapes in that environment, it's easier.
Fantastic. All right, well, why don't I go back, Alberto, while we're speaking, how about a question, as Christian speaking a bit about the 19 and the 20 vintages, for Balasto, for this particular wine, do you see any changes as the vines continue to age? Are you anticipating any blend changes, any varieties that you're sort of waiting to see how they perform? Any changes that you can anticipate going forward with Balasto?
I think it's, again, every year when we sit and we classify the wine and we made the selection for Balasto is really, is a very exciting tasting session, because I think it's the presence of different grapes in different percentages related to the growing season. Because in some years, some of them are performing better than others. So there is not obviously a fixed recipe. That changes according to, to what we taste. And again, I believe that moving forward, we are going to experience definitely more layers into the wine, because that's what you see when you have established a very deep and spread out and fine root system. You see more and more that happening, and that's why all wines are so good, because they have, an amazing underground, spread out and fine root system. So they absorbs a lot of amazing nutrients, and and they build obviously more complexity. So and it takes time. So I think it's we are open to Balasto. For us, has to represent the very best of Garzón. So any year is a different challenge, is a different story.
Fantastic. Well, as Mr. Bulgheroni says, it's always, go on. Say.
And no, and since these are no winemakers' wines, thanks God, but they are wines where the winemaker obviously is very important, because his experience, his knowledge, his know-how, is a key point to do everything right. But we need to play with the ear. We need to play with something that is not depending of us. So it's that's exciting too. And I think it's the great asset of this project is that there are two guys who have spent all their life in Uruguay, which is Eduardo Felix, the viticulturist, and Germán Bruzzone, the winemaker. And I brought in my experience and my age of making wine. I'm older than them, so I have that with some experience. But I learned a lot from them, a lot. I mean, without them, I think it wouldn't be possible to understand for me what's going on there, because I don't live there. They live there, and they're really very much involved into the environment. So it's has been an amazing teamwork. Has been something that has gone beyond the concept of winemaker and viticulturists. We are all wine growers, so we are all growing the wine. And I don't remember a single tasting where the viticulturist Eduardo was not there with us. And I don't remember a single decision in the farming where Germán and myself, when I'm there, were in the vineyard with him. So it's really a very, very strong and team, and that Christian is managing well, and he's hitting us when so just making us run fast.
I think there's a great question there in the text about how do you market a wine like this from Uruguay at this price point. I think it was Joseph Davi. Obviously, it's tough. We're creating a new appellation, a new origin. It does help to have the wine approved by the Place de Bordeaux and have a few negociants introducing the wines to the right clients. It does help tremendously to have Don Alejandro and his network of very influential people aware of this project and enjoying the wines. It's obviously very important to mention that Dr. Antonini is involved, and he's basically one of the creators of the Super Tuscans of Bolgheri. But at the end of the day, I think it's actually the wine, and for that you need to enjoy it. You need to be able to taste it. And what we've been doing is two ways. We take Garzón to the world with Francis Malman, which is the best chef of the region, and elevates all the amazing products and produce here from Garzón. And we do events, for example, with Grant Acatz in Chicago, or with Mr. Puck out at Beverly Hills. So we've done the Napa Valley auction, and we're always doing very cool events to present the wines, to present Balasto at the right level. I believe, Angela, we launched it in Manhattan with Chef Palmer, and we're always positioning the wine at the top of the game. But of course, you need to taste it, and what works best is, obviously today with COVID and pandemic is tough, but if you're able to come and visit Garzón, which unfortunately with the technology or with my skills is almost impossible to translate the experience. If you come here to the Saint-Tropez of South America, or the Hamptons of South America, and only 10 miles inland, you find this quaint village, ghost town, with the best gastronomy of South America with Francis Malman. Beautiful estate, with according to Decanter magazine, the #1 restaurant in the world. All of a sudden, you're catching on to this experience. The vineyards are gorgeous. There's palm trees all around, which is again quite awkward for latitude south 34.5, which is the same latitude as Apalta, the same latitude as Gualtayari, the same latitude as Barossa Valley. So there's something there in common. But the wines are very juicy, drinkable. In Uruguay, there's 4 cows per person. So it's obviously a great match for beef, but we are moving along with vegan movements and some amazing pairings there as well. You have to get to know Garzón. It's a very special place. It's obviously the vision of Mr. Bulgheroni or Don Alejandro. And to try to give you a picture, the vineyards, the winery, the restaurant are all in this facility that it's the first in the world, 100% LEED certified. And within that, there's the Garzón Club, which is a wine club for the real passionate people that want to be vintners. So you can make your own wine here in Garzón, but you can also make your own wine in Mr. Bulgheroni's estate in Santa Elena, or you can make wines in his estates in Brunello Montalcino, or in Mendoza, or in Bordeaux, or in Australia. So this is part of a global quality, premium, luxury, family lifestyle experience that if some of you are golfers, the club includes the only PGA Tour preferred golf course outside the US. So, you know, you have people like Francis Malman that is chosen to marry with Gwyneth Paltrow, and all they serve is Garzón Rosé. So there are things going on here that are very, very much worth discovering, difficult to explain over Zoom. I hope the wine is, you know, it's intriguing your taste buds. But in general, long stories, very long answer for you, and very difficult to keep it, you know, in a nutshell, Joseph, to convince a client or a guest to taste or to buy a bottle of Balasto is, you know, drink it, enjoy it, dream about it, cellar it. But there's a lot going on here. I'm Chilean. I went to school in Davis. I've been in the wine industry for all 3 decades, and this is absolutely outstanding. Obviously, you think I'm not objective, but I'm loving it. At least I'm the one loving it. Sorry, Angela, back to you. You're monitoring the question.
No, I can't remember at all what I was asking. It's quite an experience. Bodega Garzón, the location. I wanted to, that was kind of we're sort of coming near toward the end, so I wanted to look at some of the questions, and I know we've been answering them as we've been going through. So again, please pop any questions you have in the chat, and if we don't get to them, we certainly will be able to and to get you those by writing. But here's a really good question. I want to just highlight Josh Green has asked about the bottle weight for Balasto. So we're looking at LEED certified, and the weight is pretty hardy. So what do you have to say about that, Christian, in terms of weight, style? Does it indicate that the wine might be very rich and very heavy itself, when in fact it's a lot of elegance and energy?
Well, we treat it as a gift of talent and nature, and a lot of people use these wines, you know, to honor their parents or some very important guests, and it's still very much associated to that, to gifting. You got to remember, Uruguay is not as it's quite progressive when it comes to cannabis, but it's not progressive when it comes to wine, and I don't understand screw cap or anything else. Our main markets are the region here, Uruguay, Brazil. Obviously, the #1 exports is the States, but also we sell very well in China, and we are working with La Place de Bordeaux. This is the main reasons why we package Balasto in what we believe is the most beautiful bottle out there, that will age the wine properly in time and allows for a great cork, etc. On the math side of things, it's only 0.5% of all the glass we're using. everything else is lightweight glass. So we are consistent in sustainability and the use of glass if you want to do an average of grams of glass per bottle of wine. So we follow the protocols of the LCBO, which is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, which are the most strict, and they force you to supply on lightweight glass. In this case, with Balasto, with the long-term aging potential, which of course we are, in the process of finding out, we are using a cork that will allow it to age for 20, 30 years. We have Tanat, we have Petit Verdot, we have natural acidity. We think it will age a good couple of decades easy, but that, only time will tell.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. I know no, it's important to address and questions as they come up and highlight the attributes of the wine and the packaging, et cetera. It's an absolutely stunning label. It just is so evocative of this soil, and no, it's a wonderful project and a wonderful brand to work with. So we speak about the best is yet to come, and it's pretty darn great. I've visited, and I felt very fortunate. A wonderful experience, a place that it sounds corny, but you exhale there. It's really a very natural, beautiful experience. It's not just a fancy place or just this or just that. It's a lovely, lovely experience. So when you and others speak about the best is yet to come, what more could there be? Is there anything from the estate or tourism side, or we have an understanding of the vineyards, but is there anything else we should have on our radar?
Don Alejandro is here, so I can make the petition. When I retire, hopefully in 20 or 30 years from now, if I can have an allocation of these wines, oof, because if today they're showing this, in 10, 20 years, when those roots are working the rock and the team really understands what's coming out from where, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement and understanding, and that's part of the beauty of this newly discovered terroir. Alberto's mentioned it many times. There's this migration already happening. When he went to work on the more higher elevation western terroirs of Mendoza, the industry moved towards the Andes. Here in Uruguay, already the industry is moving from Canelones to Maldonado, which is where we are. It's very touristy. We get Punta del Este is like the Miami or the Cannes of South America. Jose Ignacio is a little bit more like the Saint-Tropez or the Hamptons. And already, for example, this year we have taken the gastronomy experience to the beach with Francis working basically on the wave break, sand, toes in the sand. If it's windy, you get some sand on your letters or your steak, but we're really pushing the elements and the experience of enjoying Garzón at the beach. The gastronomy from, if you want, the back part, like the Provence of the Costa Azul, would be the town of Garzón, and the Riviera would be Jose Ignacio. You have to always try to think of Garzón as so genuine that we use the name of the place and we give our icon the name of our soil. And all of that, I think, with the pandemia and everybody trying to entertain at home, destinations and genuine places with nature are becoming more and more sought after. So I believe there is room for even higher level experiences, people staying in the vineyards, glamping, or in cabins. Mr. Bulgheroni has a long-term vision of Garzón real estate, respecting the distance, respecting everybody. You'll be able to have a place in the beach, or you'll be able to have a place around the vineyards. and eventually, who knows, maybe around his golf course that it's very, very private for now. But there is a lot here, I believe, for what's happening in the world and the change that we're seeing with the pandemic.
Okay, so I'm feeling like that you're hinting at property. It sounds like a community, sort of a more of a tourism destination as well that's associated with beach. All right, well, we'll keep that on our radar. That's it from me and the questions I had to guide the gentleman here through these two wonderful wines. Very special. I think we got most of the questions. There are still some and questions about media reviews. I'll certainly circulate that information around, but the 2018 is a pre-release, so we haven't really sent that formally to any media. So that's why we're all tasting it here together. So we'll park that for now. And Christian, did you or Mr. Bulgheroni have any final words, or Mr. Antonini?
Well, I think it's beyond being very happy with the quality and what we have achieved, also thanks to what the family, has given us in terms of, infrastructure and everything, all the best that you may dream of when you had to develop a project. But I think it's our mission has always been to, to bring these terroir into the world of wine, and also because I strongly believe that what we are drinking today is no more than 20% of what Mother Nature could offer us in terms of grapes and places. So all the times that I'm involved, or we are involved in something that can really improve the diversity of the offer and create new experiences for the wine lovers, I'm very, very happy to be involved in something like that. So to be part and to give it, a very tiny contribution to make this world wider, more diverse, and more exciting.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Mr. Bulgheroni, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I see you there. Would you like to say any final words or farewell?
Well, after what we heard from Christian and Alberto's, not much to add. I thank everybody for being here, and we hope that nature keeps helping us, and we can produce better wines. And this is our goal, to everybody happier with better wines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're recording the session, so we'll have a link to the recording at the end. Oh, yes, Christian. Yep, go ahead.
Just a closing statement to thank our partners in the States, Pacific Highway Wines, Angela and Brandy and Jonathan and everybody that's here that brought the trade and the top opinion leaders to this session. Thank you so much. Also to the wholesalers. We all understand how intricate the market is and how difficult times are with the winter and everything. So thank you very, very much for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining. So again, we'll we'll circulate a recording of this. We have tasting notes if you wanted to see that. And of course, accolade sheets and anything else, any further information, we're here. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Good job, everybody. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Mark, ciao guys, take care.